And this is unit 1 or unit 10? Teaching aptitude or teaching method is different?
Yes, if this is unit 10 of paper 2. Teaching aptitude is of paper 1.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So this is paper unit 10 of paper 2. Let's have a look at the syllabus first. So in this particular unit, we are going to study teaching and learning, concepts and relationship between the two, principles of teaching, levels and phases of teaching, quality of a perfect yoga guru, like what qualities a yoga teacher should have. He should have a good he should have a genuine interest in communication and genuine interest in his subject what he's teaching. Yogic levels of learning, vidyarthi, shishya, mumukshu. So the first level is vidyarthi. When a student learns about materialistic subjects, then he is vidyarthi. Then in the next level, which is shishya, he becomes a spiritual seeker. He learns spiritual knowledge. He gets spiritual knowledge, and after that, when he develops intense desire for liberation, then he is called as mumukshu. So these are the three levels of learning. Meaning and scope of teaching methods and factors influencing them, sources of teaching methods, role of yoga teachers and teacher training, techniques of individualized teacher techniques of group teaching, and teaching techniques of mass instruction. So when we teach yoga, then we teach both to individuals also individually, personally, and to group also, and to mass, like when we see on the yoga day, then there we need to give mass instructions. So we will learn about these, that how can we teach to them, organization of teaching, management, discipline, etc. Essentials of good lesson plan. What are the essentials of good lesson plan? We will learn about its concepts, needs, planning of teaching yoga, shodhan kriya, asan, mudra, pranayama, meditation. Next is models of lesson plan, illustration of the need for a lesson plan, illustration of the need for a content plan, 8-step method of introduction as developed in Kaivalyadham. So, for learning this subject, teaching method of yogic practices, uh, read the book by Kaivalyadham, which is teaching methods for yogic practices, and the author of this book are Dr. Manohar Lal Gharote and Dr. S.K. Ganguly. So for exam, you have to study this book. Examiner directly asks question from this book, and so try to be attentive and focused while you read this book in the class.
Ma'am, would you please repeat the author name?
Dr. Manohar Lal Gharote and Dr. S.K. Ganguly. The next topic is evaluation methods of an ideal yoga class, methods of customizing yoga class to meet individual needs. Like when we are teaching yoga in a group, so in that group there are individuals. How can we meet their needs individually while teaching in a group? So we will learn about this. The student will have demonstrations and training in the above mentioned aspects of teaching methods. Yoga classroom. We will learn about yoga classroom, its features, the area, how the
Excuse me,
seating arrangement should be. Yes.
sorry for interrupting.
No.
Your second slide is not visible because right now we are showing you the introduction thing. Syllabus is not in our screen.
Okay, wait. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in yoga classroom, we have to study essential features of a yoga class. What should be the area and sitting arrangement in yoga class? And next topic is the last topic of in our syllabus is students' approach to the teacher. Sorry. Students' approach to the teacher, Pranipat, Pariprashna, Seva. So these are the terms, these are the words taken from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, verse number 4.34. So what does Pranipat means? Means to bowing down to teacher, respecting teacher, and Pariprashna, asking questions, and Seva, the service for the teacher. So the book Teaching Methods for Yogic Practices, in this book there are 8 chapters. First, let's get familiar with the name of the chapters. First chapter is Introduction. Second chapter is Yoga and Yogic Practices. Third chapter is Meaning and Scope of Teaching Methods. Fourth chapter is Sources of Teaching Methods. Fifth chapter is Class Management. Sixth is the teaching aid in yoga and its importance. What teaching aids we use in yoga? This chapter is all about that. Seventh chapter is Art and Science of Questioning in Yoga Teaching. And the last chapter, 8th chapter, is Lesson Planning. So all the names of the chapter are clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now you are familiar with the names. Now what all these chapters consist of, what topics we are going to study in these chapters? Let's look at this. Teaching in ancient times. In chapter number 1, teaching in ancient times and difference between ancient and modern teaching. Next, in chapter number 2, we will study which is yoga and yogic practices. In this chapter, we will study about the common misconceptions that are in the field of yoga. And next is meaning of yoga. Next, 6 classification of yogic practices that are given in this book. And while attempting the questions from this unit number 10 in the exam, please keep this in mind that you have to answer from this book. So you don't need to cramp anything, but just understand what's given in this book while you are reading. Chapter number 3, which is meaning and scope of teaching methods. In this chapter, the first topic that we will study is 6 factors in teaching process. And what are those 6 factors? First one is teaching, learning, teacher, student. Fifth is subject of activity. Sixth is environment. Next topic is scope of teaching learning. And next is methods of teaching. In methods of teaching, there are two categories given. First is instructional method and second is practical skill method. In instructional method, there are theoretical methods which are required for teaching theoretical subject, and in practical skill method like yoga, when we teach yoga practically, then these types of methods are used. In classroom method, there are these methods given: lecture method, recitation method, the project method, the laboratory method, the dramatic method, and the group discussion method. So just keep these names in your mind. You do not need to deeply study these methods, but you must have a basic idea of these methods. Next is two traditional teaching approaches: teacher-centered and learner-centered. Next very important topic in chapter number 3 is 7 basic methods of teaching. We'll study these topics in detail later. First is lecture method. Second, response to instruction method. Third, individualized instructional method. Fourth, group discussion method. Fifth, directed practice method. Sixth, project method. Seventh, demonstration method. So these are the 7 methods. Then next and the last next topic is 5 factors influencing the method. What are the 5 factors that influence the method? First one is content. Directly question from this has been asked, so be attentive. Second is previous background and experience of the student, the teacher. Fourth, facilities. Fifth, scientific principles. Then in the next slide, chapter number 4, sources of teaching. In this chapter, sources of teaching, there are 5 principles given. Those 5, and every yoga teacher should know about these 5 principles. First one is yogic principle. Yogic principle. Next, psychological principle. Third, anatomico-psychological principles. Fourth, educational principles. And fifth, sociological principles. So we will study these in detail later. In chapter number 5, class management. Very interesting and important chapter. First, 4 groups of yoga participants or students. What are the four groups? First one are beginners, advanced, school children, special attention group. Then next is techniques to deal with difficult students. What are the techniques? How can we deal with students who disturb the class? This is what we will study. Seating arrangement, instructions, discussion, extra class practice. All these topics in chapter number 5. Then in chapter number 6, teaching aids in yoga and its importance. Different types of teaching aids. This is very small and simple chapter. Next is advantages of teaching aids and principles of selecting teaching aids. Now the 7th chapter, art and science of questioning in yoga teaching. Objectives of questioning, 7 kinds of questions. First one are introductory questions, second developing questions, then thought-provoking questions, problematic questions, comprehensive questions. 6th, comparison. 7th, recapitulatory questions. And after all these, what are the characteristics of good questions? This is what we will study in chapter number 7. Then in chapter number 8, which is the last chapter of the book, lesson planning. How to plan a lesson and why should we plan a lesson, and all these things are given in this chapter. Advantages of a written lesson plan. Essentials of a good lesson plan. 12 steps in the conduct of a yogic lesson. conducting a lesson on meditation, characteristics of meditation, cautions, methods of teaching meditation, and self-evaluation by teacher. So these are the 8 chapters and the topics that we will cover in all these 8 chapters. Remember the name of these chapters at least. So before moving further, I want to ask, now you know what we will study in this unit. So what do you think why UGC NET has included this book in the syllabus? Anyone wants to answer? Why are we studying this?
Ma'am, that's so that we can easily like cooperate with the students, and we should know that what are the pros and cons of teaching.
Yes, good. So, and this is the last unit. So according to UGC, you must have covered, you already would have covered all the knowledge like Hatha yogic textbooks and all the practices that you need to have to be a yogi. So now you already have all the knowledge. Now it's time to teach it to others. See, if you just have knowledge and you do not know how to teach it to others, then it's of no use. So knowledge plus skill, both are important. So this unit teaches us how to teach the skill, teach how to apply the knowledge that we already have. That's why we are reading this book. So before,
So, ma'am, going through with the slides will be enough, right? We don't have to buy book, or we need to.
yeah, no, you don't need to buy book because I have prepared the notes from the book only, and
Okay.
it will be enough if you attend the class. But be attentive. So first, we will see the previous year questions. You don't need to answer these questions just like you have comprehensive question in the exam in the exam, and you just first read the questions, and then if you try to read the comprehension, then you will be able to answer more efficiently, and you will study the comprehensive more attentively. In the same way, here we have some previous year questions, so you can read according
And
to the book. Yeah.
I think I thought you will tell me the answer also.
No, I will tell you answer after we finish the syllabus. After that, we will answer these questions in the class. Okay.
Okay.
For now, just have a look at the questions. What type of questions have been asked? According to the book Teaching Methods of Yogic Practices, what should be the size of the mat? As you can see, this is not the previous question actually, but these types of questions are asked. As you can see, the options are quite confusing. So when you read, you will tell me that was what was the right answer. Question number third, which of the following is directional method of yoga teaching? So this question is asked from the methods of teaching. Group discussion, lecture, practice, demonstration. For a large group of students in yoga, one convenient seating arrangement should include. This question is asked from sitting arrangement topic. Double row with space in between without dais for the teacher, or circular sitting for students, double row with space and with a dais for the teacher, U-shaped sitting for students. For a small yoga class, best sitting arrangement of the students may be straight row, circular form, semicircle form, double circle form. Learning of a specific yoga practice by a student depends upon concentration of the teacher, of the instructor, power of the instructor, clear instruction of the instructor, self-confidence of the instructor. Next, the purpose of teaching is mainly to induce change in the environment, change in the subject, change in the student, change in the teacher. So anyone who wants to answer this question?
Maybe A or C. Most probably C, ma'am.
I think
Yes,
C.
it's C.
C.
Yes, correct, correct. See, this question is very easy. Uh, you don't even have read the book, but you know the answer. Because many topics in this teaching methods are similar to teaching aptitude. Next, most authentic methodology of imparting value education may be traditional Gurukul teaching, classroom teaching, practice-based yoga teaching, theory-based yoga teaching. Anybody wants to answer this? Where value-based education was given? Okay, we will
Value
see this
based to
one.
the traditional Gurukul teaching.
Traditional
Yes,
Gurukul teaching.
correct. Advantages of a written lesson plan are to organize teachers' thinking, to increase teachers' confidence, to understand students' capacity, to keep up teaching objectives. So this we will study this topic. You will be able to answer this after studying the topic lesson plan. Match the following: lecture method, group discussion method, demonstration, directed practice method. You have to match this list 1 to list 2. Identify the correct sequence of presentation in yoga teaching: demonstration, evaluation, explanation, discussion. Next, which is the most suitable teaching method for teaching yoga practices in a small group of learners? Demonstration method. So there are many questions which have been asked from this methods of teaching: direct practice method, group discussion method, response to instruction method. According to teaching methods of yogic practices, the learning pattern simple to complex and from known to unknown belongs to psychological principle, educational, sociological, or yogic. So this question is asked from principles of teaching. According to teaching method for yogic practice, arrange the following steps in yoga practical class in a sequence of start to end: question and answer, group practice, individual practice, relaxation, sitting arrangement. You have to arrange in the sequence. Like first what we do prayer first. Like in this way you will study this in the last chapter, 8th chapter. Which of the following are the purpose of lesson plan? To reduce the last minute pressure in the classroom, dealing with difficult students in the classroom, to show the importance of modern education system, to show the more interest in teaching aids, to keep the class towards the goal. So again, this question is asked from lesson planning. Which of the following are successful teaching learning approach? Teacher-centered, student-centered, curriculum-centered approach, tradition-centered approach. These are the two statements given. Value-based education seems absent in modern times. So we don't need to do this question because value-based education is not in our syllabus, in our new syllabus. So we don't need to do this. Practices of pranayam principally provides control over autonomous nervous system, central nervous system, sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. According to teaching methods of yogic practices, how many factors are involved in teaching methods? 5, 6, 7, 8. According to teaching methods of yogic practices, conventional patterns of successful teaching are of 2 types, 4 types, 5 types, 7 types. So as you can see that directly from this book, the questions have been asked directly from the book. According to the book, Teaching Methods of Yogic Practices, how much area is required for every individuals during yoga practice? So these are the all questions. Now let's start a chapter number 1. Chapter number 1, which is introduction. These are the topics that we will study. So before moving to the next slide, if anybody wants to share their thoughts on these 2 topics, the teaching in ancient times and difference between ancient and modern teaching, you can share. What do you think, how the teaching in ancient times used to be and how is it different from today's time?
Maybe that in ancient time the spiritual knowledge was most important thing they were teaching, and nowadays we are following these skill based knowledge, the subject based, these mm, subjects like history, geography, engineering, and all.
Right. And or more?
Gurukul system and our modern
In old,
traditional system.
Yes, please. Srini.
at old times, it was like more about the mental health and spirituality, and nowadays it becoming more like bodily, like body health, health of a body, focused on body, not mental conditions. That's why this in this era, in modern times, we are facing more mental issues. Even we are facing body issues, but mental issues creating body issues. Likewise, it is going. What I feel.
Okay, so we can say that in today's time, the education is more focused on materialistic things. And also in ancient times also, it was focused on mental as well as body also. As we see Ayurveda and all these things. So it's not just that it was just only mental focus, but yes, it was both. Materialistic and spiritual both.
Yes, like that time it was more mental health, about mental health, and here we are more focusing on body health only.
Right. So next, yeah, this is teaching in ancient times. As you can see, the first point, persistent questioning, showing reverence, doing physical work for the teacher. So this line is from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. As you can see the verse, Tad vidhi pranipaten pariprashnen sevaya उपदेक्षयन्ति te jnanam jnaninast tattvadarshinaha, which means learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him with reverence, and render service unto him. Such an enlightened saint can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. This line is taken from Bhagavad Gita. Persistent questioning. Why persistent questioning? Because anybody wants to tell why, what do you think that why in ancient times the way of learning used to be persistent questioning? Why?
Ma'am,
The student should have curiosity to know the truth.
Yes, Deepamji.
I was checking whenever we were reading Upanishads and all, most of the knowledge that we are getting from them is on the basis of question and answer. So until and unless the person, basically the pupil, has any kind of question, he's not basically once the question arises, only then you get the whole thing as an answer. uh, you keep questioning, and only through that particular method your guru will answer you.
Right. As also in the Bhagavad Gita, if we see that Sri Krishna only answered Arjuna because he had that curiosity within him. If he didn't have asked question, then it won't have created that void in him, and there would be no space for the knowledge. So when we ask question from ourselves, or when question arises in us, then it creates a void, a spaciousness within us, and to fill that spaciousness, Guru answers us. So overall, if we see that to make us intellectually grow, and to make us grow, to make us learn, persistent questioning is required. Next is showing reverence, respect for the teacher. Like in ancient times, students, sishyas used to respect their teachers a lot, doing physical work for the teacher. Like they used to fetch water for their guru, and they used to do any domestic work, or and they it's not like that they were forced or imposed to do that. They out of respect, they used to do it, a selfless service. Arguments between the teacher and the students, but no acrimony. So in ancient times, there used to be the arguments, but a healthy argument. The purpose of that argument was to learn, was to grow, and was to learn and grow. No fixed hours of teaching. As in today's time, we see that our college time will be from 9 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. So there there is fixed timing. But in ancient times, there was no fixed hours, and no examination and no certificates. So in today's time, there is the motivation is extrinsic, but in ancient times, the motivation was not extrinsic; it was intrinsic. There is no such external validation needed that you have to, if you have this degree or this certificate, then only then you don't need you didn't need any external validation at that time. But in today's time, we all need external validation. So, and we have degrees, certificates, and there was no competition at that time. So you can't say that I am doing better than him, or he is better doing than him. There was no such thing. The only purpose of learning was to learn for ourselves. Being with the teacher was the best way to learn residential situation. In ancient times, as in the Gurukul, the Sishya used to live in the Gurukul for 7 years, and they used to learn while being with the Guru, not only from the classroom. Like in today's time, students learn from the teacher only from the when the teacher is teaching in the class. But in ancient times, students used to live with their teachers, with their teacher, and they used to see how a teacher behaves, how he conducts himself, and how his personality is. We can say that a teacher used to be the role model for the student. The teacher and the students' relation were free and frank. So it's not like that the students can't ask anything, teacher will beat them up. No, students were and teacher relationship was very open. They can ask anything. If they have any problem related to anything, they can directly go to the teacher and ask them. So The relation between the student and teacher was free and frank. The idea was to study together, not to compete with each other. There was no examination, no test, quizzes, so no competition was there. Before lesson, they would pray together that they might derive the best result. So before starting the class, they used to set the intention for the class to derive the best results. So is this slide clear to you all? Okay. Education in ancient time was free. A good teacher always expected that his student should always prove his superiority. Although the teacher knew more than the students, but he always wanted his students to show their superiority, because he wanted his disciples to learn. Teaching was oral, required recitation and cultivation of good memory. So in ancient times, there were no books like we have today. We have the slides, notes, and books, all of these things available. But in ancient times, the teaching was given orally from the guru to his disciples. So there was no, so it was totally oral, and that's why it required recitation and a good memory. The student learned from the content of the lesson as well as through personal conduct. So student used to learn from what the teacher teaches while teaching, and also what the teacher, they used to observe the teacher and learn through personal conduct. Practical subjects teaching involved in ancient times. The practical subjects teaching involved on the part of the student, observation, demonstration, practice, trial and error was required. So first the student will observe this teacher, then after that he will demonstrate, then after that he will practice it more and more. And while he is practicing, so if he is learning something difficult asana, then he would try it in different way, then try and error method. Try, if it works then it's good, then if it doesn't work for him, then he will do it in some other way. On the part of teacher had two roles: correction of the faults and giving positive suggestions. Teacher will correct the fault of those who are doing wrong and give positive suggestions if they are doing something good, or if it's their strong point, then teacher will give positive suggestions. So what's the difference between ancient teaching and modern teaching? In ancient teaching, there used to be limited number of students, but in today's time, there are unlimited number of students, and we have many facilities available. Many development has taken place in the education system. So there can be unlimited number of students, like online sources and others. No time foundation there was no time foundation in ancient teaching, but in modern teaching there is time foundation. The purpose of ancient teaching was wholesome development, and it was not a profession but a mission to enlighten young children. And in modern teaching, purpose is profession related. Ideological quality mattered. In ancient teaching, the way a student thinks, all his ideologies, beliefs, all these things mattered. But in modern teaching, assessment of the teaching quality is based on marks. How much marks a student gets shows how better he is at learning. In modern teaching, students belong to a particular varna class. Like in ancient times, only Kshatriya and Brahmins, these have the right to learn. No class difference, but in modern teaching, anybody can learn or everybody have right to education. So this was the first chapter. Is this chapter clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And just a second, last slide.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do these two topics for today, and then the last topic we will do tomorrow. Common misconceptions about yoga. This is chapter number 2, yoga and yogic practices. First topic is common misconceptions about yoga and meaning of yoga. So what do you think that what are the most common misconceptions about yoga in today's time?
That it is about physical fitness only.
Okay. And what misconceptions you had before you entered the field of yoga or you started
That
learning
yoga,
about yoga?
that yoga is only about asana.
Yes. All of us commonly had this misconception. More? Anybody else?
Yoga depends for Hindu only.
Okay. Yes, this is also misconception. Anybody or more wants to tell?
Progress in yoga is doing complicated asanas.
Very good. Okay, then let's see what are the misconceptions. So in this book, there are six misconceptions given. An examiner can ask a question like this. He'll give you the options and you have to find which misconception is given in this book. First is yoga is not meant for ordinary person, the householder, but is only for a select few. This is a big misconception because anybody on this planet who is a human being can do yoga no matter what his age, gender, or whatever he is. Anybody can do yoga. So it's not only for a selected few people. Second misconception is yoga is associated with the idea of supernatural or linked with miracles. This is totally wrong. And third one, yoga is equated with mysticism, black magic, or various types of mortification. Mortification is like self-control, extreme self-control, and these types of activities. So yoga is not this. Yoga is a system of therapy which can cause, which can cure all diseases. Also, you see that when people around you, when someone is a yoga instructor or who do yoga or someone who is healthy, then people will come and ask that I have headache, I have back pain, give me some solution, I have this issue, I have this issue, but they don't understand that yoga can't cure all the diseases. It can help you to, it's just the one aspect of yoga, but in actual yoga is more than this. Fifth point is yoga is a system of philosophy dealing with metaphysical theories about the universe. Sixth is yoga is just a system of exercise. So these are the common misconceptions. Now, these misconceptions are often, these misconceptions have developed over the time due to misinterpretation of the, either misinterpretation of the textbooks or due to the wrong advertising by West, or just by misinterpretation by the people. These misconceptions indicate that most people are unable to see yoga as a whole concept, but are only aware of a fragment of its potential. So why these 6 misconceptions are there? Because people are only aware of a fragment of yoga. They do not know yoga as complete. So what yoga as a whole is? Let's know the meaning of yoga in next slide. Meaning and concept of yoga. Yoga is and as well as means. So what do we mean by and here, and what do we mean by means here? Let's see. And means integration of personality at the highest level. This is the and, like the stage which we call samadhi. This is the end stage. Yoga is derived from the root word yuj, which means this root word yuj has 2 meanings, samadhi and samatva. Samadhi means integration with the highest level, with Paramatma, integration of Atma with Paramatma. And second, Samatva, harmony. So this is and this is means. Means, in means all these techniques and practices are included, which we do, like we do asanas and pranayam and all different techniques are there. So these come under means. So yoga is not just means, and yoga is not only and. Yoga is and as well as means. One who knows the yoga as whole has no misconceptions about yoga. Lack of discrimination between these 2 meanings is one of the causes of confusion about yoga. So this is all. We'll cover this topic tomorrow. If you have any problem in today's class, you can ask me.
And you can explain the 5th point, common misconception.
Wait a second. Yeah, someone was asking 5th point.
Yes.
Okay. Yoga is a system of philosophy dealing with metaphysical theories about the universe. So, as we read in Upanishads and all these things, in all these textbooks, that yoga, they tell us about something metaphysical or something that we cannot perceive from our normal senses. So, yoga is not just that. No doubt that yoga is this, but it's not just that. It's not just limited to this. No doubt it is included in the yoga. But as we have seen in the next slide that yoga is and as well as means. So it's a part of yoga. It's not a complete yoga. So that's why it comes under the misconception about yoga. Did you get it?
Okay. Yes, got your point.
Okay. So let's do our prayer, and anybody who wants to do that prayer. Yes. who has raised the hand? Yes. Shakshi Pandey ji and Deepam ji. Anybody, please start.
Okay. So please sit straight. Join your both palm. Eyes closed. Take a deep breath in and out. Start chanting Shanti mantra. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः 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 Rub your both palm. Place it on your face, your eyes. Now slowly open your eyes.